What if I told you that one of the world's most celebrated art museums was built on money pulled out of deadly mines, crushed workers, and a desperate gamble that should have ruined a man? Because the Guggenheim Empire did not begin with art or elegance. It began inside a collapsing silver shaft where survival, ambition, and danger collided. In the summer of 1881, Leadville, Colorado, was the wildest place in America. A ghost town that once held 40 people now held 40,000. The air was thick with dust, arsenic, and greed. Wooden tents shook in the sharp mountain wind. Men arrived with empty pockets and grand fantasies, and most of them left with broken bodies. Into this chaos walked a thin, tired immigrant named Meyer Guggenheim. He was 44 years old and had spent most of his life selling lace for pennies on the streets of New York. His hands were cracked, his English was rough, and his pockets held only $5,000 saved from years of grinding labor. Yet he stood at the edge of a mine shaft no one believed in, holding a flickering lantern over a pit that looked like a grave. A Philadelphia broker had whispered a rumor that the abandoned Hawk's Nest still held silver. Most miners laughed at the idea. The shaft had been worked to exhaustion. But Meyer was not like the others. He was not searching for riches. He was searching for escape from poverty. And sometimes desperation sharpens the eye. He bought the claim for $3,000, a decision that seemed foolish at best and suicidal at worst. What happened next, nobody saw coming. When the ore samples came back, they revealed something astonishing. The silver was still there. By Christmas, Meyer had pulled out $100,000 of pure silver ore. He had gone from a lace peddler to a man with a small fortune in a matter of months. Suddenly his life, and the lives of everyone around him, changed overnight. He sent word to Philadelphia. His 7 sons, Isaac, Daniel, Marie, Solomon, Simon, William, and young Ben, left the lace factory where they earned $2 a week. They traveled west and walked straight into the brutal world of the mines. Their mother cried quietly as they packed. But there was no choice. Meyer believed that if the family did not dig together, they would starve together. The boys were yanked out of school and thrown into mountain tunnels filled with toxic dust. Childhood evaporated under the weight of shovels, carts, and rock. Leadville rewarded the brave and destroyed the careless. But for the Guggenheims, fortune continued to shine. By 1884, the A.Y. and Minnie claim produced $1 million. Meyer leased more mines, including Sleepy Hollow and the Terrible. For a moment, he believed the family was safe. They had crossed the line between poverty and prosperity. Then the nation's economic tides turned against them. The price of silver collapsed as the effects of the Coinage Act of 1873 rippled through the market. Silver was no longer valuable enough to sustain mining operations. Claims that once paid fortunes now bled debt. Miners fled, owners panicked. And Meyer found himself staring at $500,000 of debt, a crushing amount that threatened to send the entire family back to Europe. The lace business in Philadelphia had been gutted by new tariffs. Their savings evaporated. Hope grew thin. But fate was not finished with the Guggenheims. A chemist examining their ores made a discovery that reshaped the family's destiny. Hidden inside the lead was copper, and copper was becoming the metal of the future. Telegraph lines depended on it. The coming wave of electricity would depend on it. The world was hungry for copper, and Meyer realized that he was standing on an opportunity greater than silver had ever been. He gambled again, this time not on a mine, but on the fire that would refine metal itself. In 1888, he established the Philadelphia Smelting and Refining Company. The furnaces in Jersey City roared day and night. The flames did not simply melt ore. They forged a dynasty. Meyer sent his sons to Mexico to negotiate mining rights with the government of Porfirio Diaz, traveled through dangerous mountains, dodged bandits, and lived in harsh camps filled with disease. Each telegram they sent home could change the direction of the family's fortune. By the early 1900s, the Guggenheims were no longer lace peddlers or small-time miners. They were industrial titans. Their greatest victory came in 1901 when they seized control of ASARCO, the American Smelting and Refining Company. It was a $20 million acquisition that gave them control over nearly all copper smelting across the United States. Their smelters burned in Montana, Mexico, and Chile, or traveled thousands of miles to be refined in their facilities. The Guggenheim family now held the beating heart of the Copper Age. But power always casts a shadow. Workers in Leadville inhaled deadly dust until their lungs hardened into stone. Miners lived in cramped, disease-ridden shacks. Many never saw their families again after entering the tunnels. When they demanded better wages in 1894, the strikes were crushed with Pinkertons and rifles. Daniel Guggenheim's ledgers listed injured miners with a cold phrase, expendable labor. This was the brutal truth behind the family fortune. Yet the Guggenheims continued to expand. Chuquicamata in the Atacama Desert of Chile became the world's largest open-pit copper mine by 1915. It produced more than 100,000 tons every year. Workers lived in scorching heat, surrounded by poisoned air. And yet demand for copper kept rising. The family's wealth swelled. Meyer, who had once dreamed only of survival, now stood at the center of an empire built on fire and metal. Meyer died in 1905 at the age of 68. He left $200 million to his 7 sons along with a final instruction: keep the business together. But the moment he passed, conflict cracked across the family like lightning. Each son had a different vision. Daniel eventually seized control with sharp financial instincts and a relentless will. In 1910, he orchestrated a massive merger that absorbed Utah Copper into Kennecott. It became one of the most powerful mining companies in American history. The Bingham Canyon mine grew into one of the largest man-made holes on Earth. World War I transformed copper into gold. The United States military needed it for bullets, communication lines, and engines. In 1917 alone, the Guggenheims made $50 million. Their power extended into Washington, South America, and Europe. But tragedy remained close. Ben, the gentle son who once worked in the lace factory, died unexpectedly from pneumonia in a Paris hotel in 1918. His death shook the family, and it pushed Solomon, always the quiet and artistic brother, further away from the violence of industry. Solomon turned to art. He began collecting, studying, and supporting artists who were shaping modernism. In 1937, he established the Solomon R. Guggenheim Foundation. He commissioned Frank Lloyd Wright to design a museum like no other, a spiraling white temple dedicated to modern art. It opened in 1959 and changed the cultural landscape of the world. Visitors saw beauty, innovation, and power. Few saw the minds that paid for the masterpieces. Few knew that the glowing walls could be traced back to Leadville and Mexico and Chile, where workers breathed dust that shortened their lives. By 1919, the tension between miners and corporations erupted violently in Butte, Montana. 16,000 miners marched, demanding safer conditions. They were met with bullets fired by guards funded by mining interests tied to the Guggenheims. More than 160 people were injured. This event became known as the Copper Collar, a symbol of the chokehold the industry held over the region. The Great Depression hit the family hard, stripping $50 million from their wealth. But their trusts and financial shields protected them from total ruin. World War II revived demand for copper once again. Their mines fueled submarines, tanks, and warships. After the war, the family expanded into oil fields in Texas and Venezuela, rubber plantations in Indonesia, and global shipping. Peggy Guggenheim pushed the family name even further into art, building a gallery in Venice it became a sanctuary for the avant-garde. And in 1997, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao opened its doors, a shining titanium marvel visited by millions. It became a symbol of artistic rebirth. But beneath its beauty lay the long and painful history that built the foundation. The Guggenheim story is a testament to the heights ambition can reach and the depths it can dig. It is a story of fire and metal, of suffering and innovation, of fortunes made from danger and transformed into culture. It is the American dream in its most raw and complex form, a reminder that every great legacy comes with a cost. So here's the question that echoes across more than a century. Can art erase the pain that built the empire? Or does every masterpiece whisper the truth of the minds beneath it? If this journey into the hidden past of the Guggenheim dynasty captivated you, make sure to subscribe. Because next we explore another immigrant who built a fortune from the ground up, A.N. Pritzker, the man who turned real estate gambling into the $30 billion Hyatt empire. Tell me in the comments, what legacy are you trying to build? And what risk would you take if everything depended on it?